So I was at the first All Things Data a few years ago, and it is so great to be back. My name is Yehoshua Coren, and it is also great to be with a crowd that knows how to pronounce my name. Right? When I travel the rest of the world, everybody has no idea how to pronounce my name. So toda rabba odapam v'amarcheh. You can tweet me at Analytics Ninja on Twitter. And today, I'm going to be speaking about how I like to use Google Analytics. And as a result, after many years of experience with the tool, make some recommendations for you to think about how you can be using Google Analytics for your businesses and for your clients. So the first step that I always take has to do with strategy. Okay? Now I'm going to move through this quickly because I'm going to go through a lot of tactical elements. But something that I always see get forgotten is using strategy. So I'm going to call on my friend Ron, because he decided to sit in the front row. Oh, that's not going to work. Stand here. Shh. Oh, no. Come up to the stage. Come up to everybody. A round of applause for Ron.
הוא היה בפאנל של המומחים, and I want you to read the definition of what is digital analytics. You can do it from the screen here, too. Yeah. He didn't know that I was going to do this.
Web Analytics definition. Digital Analytics Association. Web Analytics is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of internet data for purpose of understanding and optimizing web usage. Thank you.
Right? Yeah, you can go down now. We'll speak tomorrow. Nachon? So the thing that gets forgotten is, what are we doing? What are we doing with web analytics? We're, I think, so stuck in our tools that we miss the picture of what it is we're trying to accomplish. The bolding is my own, right? Understanding and optimizing. Okay, so this is going to be a process skipping the strategy, but how to really get there. Okay? Because what companies do with me, they say, hey, I've been collecting data in Google Analytics from 2002, when the tool didn't exist, right? We have all this data, and so tell me, what should I do? Right? But they miss the process of that is required to get good data. Where I see a tool like Google Analytics is supposed to answer questions. So if you don't identify your objectives and you don't ask good questions, you can't get the data in there to begin to answer questions. Okay? So that's a Hanachat Yesod. So keep that in mind as I jump past that, and I'm not going to work as much as business questions by thinking about the data model. Because most of what we're going to be talking about today is the data model and how to use the tool for segmentation in order to answer questions. Okay? So determine the questions that you're trying to answer, and then collect the data in order to answer questions. Now that we have that Hanachat Yesod, the next step is understanding really how to use hit-level data to build the correct data model. What do I mean? So Google Analytics is built on dimensions and metrics. Right? This is not a 101 class, so don't worry. Right? Dimensions are the rows, the metrics are the columns, they are your data. But what happens is that we'll take something like this. Events. Here's, you viewed a product, you selected a color, you added it to your wish list. What is the metric? Event. Right? That's all it is. The metric itself is called event. I can pivot, I can drill down and get some more context about my metrics. I can know that this event of add to basket happened for paid search or organic search. I can pivot it in a different way to move those into columns, but my metric is still event, a word that doesn't have too much contextual meaning. It just means happened. There was a mikra, and with that event, then I can say, oh, that event was add to wish list for organic. But if I can pivot it in a different way so that my metric becomes something with meaning, the add to wish list or the clicked to view a recent product or a recommended product, those now become metrics. And it changes the whole data model in Google Analytics when you're working with numbers. Right? I'll give an example of how to do it. Right? Remember, it's just incrementing. Go into your tag manager, say, this action, set the metric to go 1 time every time it fires. With the free version, you have 20 slots. With the paid version, you have 200. Okay? Example. Let's say that there's a CTA I want to click. This company sells subscriptions to download PowerPoint presentations. Okay? You want to download this PowerPoint presentation? Great. Click this. So now I can know how many times that download button was clicked. And amazingly, because I'm using these magic things, numbers, right? Then I can do math. I can say how many downloads did I have per page view. So I can go into my calculated metrics in the admin in Google Analytics, and I need a metric. I can't say events for page view. I need download buttons clicked per page view, which gives me a percentage. So now I can see the ratio of were they roadmap or business timeline or timelines or strategy, what types, because the page view is described as a dimension, but the number becomes a ratio with context and meaning as a calculated metric. This leads to potential actions. Like maybe I'll have a more prominent placement of these categories on my site. Maybe I can see where people have interest and I can have stronger focus for my paid and organic search. Maybe free sample buttons on those. What should I do, right? Here's another example of how custom metrics are super useful. This is a long website. It's a lead gen for buying cars, okay? Now, you can see all the way at the bottom, there's this form. What would I want to know? Not just, was there a goal? Did somebody fill out a form to inquire about purchasing a car? I would want to know, well, which car? What type of car and how I describe the car. So the way to do that, you have to send an impression of this form. This impression is pretty easy to do with Google Tag Manager because you have what's called a visibility selector. So if you know a little bit of CSS or can work with your developers, you can say, hey, this VDP, this vehicle detail page contact form, was seen. I choose the visibility selector, put in a little ID for that, and say, yeah, if someone saw that form for 3 seconds, they saw it. That's all it says. You saw the form. Now, that's the metric of display. I have to send the value with an event. So lead gen form was displayed, but what I care about more is that custom metric saying lead gen form displayed. Now, I have a data visualization by vehicle model of the conversion rate on per page conversion rate for B2B or for any other micro conversion action. Because really, your users are behaving within a context on a page. Actions they take are within a context of the page that they're interacting with. So you need to measure that as a ratio to determine amounts of interest or disinterest or friction. You have to know that on that hit level, on that page level. I'll go a little bit into how I created that report because calculated metrics are super easy in Google Data Studio, and instead of 5 calculated metrics like GA, you get as many as you want. There's no limit. So you manage your data sources, right? You edit it, and then you just do the math. You need 2 numbers, completions and views. That creates a ratio. When you click on that little number icon, you can change it to a percentage, make it a bar chart, show the number, and voila, you have that report that's easy to see, but we can do so much more with it. And I love Data Studio for this purpose. Filter controls. A filter control in Google Data Studio is something that you can apply to the entire report. So you see the filter control, you just draw a little box, choosing your dimension you want to filter about. How am I describing it? I'm describing the vehicle model. What type of car? Or I can use anything else that's in my data layer, in my custom dimensions, that's telling me how I'm describing this car. It's make and model. It's a Jeep. It's a Grand Cherokee. It has 20,000 kilometers on it. It's from 2016. Apparently, they're selling it for free. I'm not sure why the price is 0. Nevertheless, these are descriptors of the vehicles. So now I can create that second box, and what we're looking at here is the mileage. And I can say, show me the conversion rate based upon how many kilometers it has on its dashboard. right? And then I can even create that visualization any way I want. Look at that. It's a scatter plot. It's the same sort of bar chart, but with a scatter plot, I can see the distance based upon how many people saw it and its conversion rate. Okay? The way that I was able to get that number 20,179 into a bucket was using something called case statements. Case statements in Google Data Studio allow you to take data that's there and manipulate it and prepare it. So it's a little bit of regular expressions, but I can take these numbers, because it was a string, it wasn't an actual number, it was a piece of text that was made of numbers, and turn it into buckets, right? You get what that means? That all of the data quality issues that we struggle with all the time working with Google Analytics, capitalization, URL parameters, naming convention, creating retroactive funnels, right? Creating buckets, all that's doable with Google Data Studio. So all the pain that we feel is like, oh my God, I did it today. I created a tag on a large website and I messed it up and the URLs are all messed up. So what did I do? I wrote to my client, and I'll be happy to fix that in Data Studio for you for free, just because I made the mistake. I did. But you can go into Google Data Studio and clean your data. It's huge. So here's a few takeaways, right? Using custom metrics as counters in addition to just regular event tracking, right? Because it allows you to use numbers to give context to the numbers and give you a real data model that's usable. Okay? And use that Data Studio for your data cleanup if you're not doing it in other tools, because it's free and it is built to work with the Google stack. Okay, next step, a quick introduction to basic concepts in segmentation. Okay? Segmentation is the meat and potatoes, right? The foundations of analysis. To gain understanding, we have to segment. And one of my analytics heroes, Gary Angel, describes segmentation in two ways, right? He says we have the traditional type of relationship, who is the individual that's on our website, or unit of work-based. In other words, what are they doing, their behavior. Okay, so let's give some examples. Here, we're looking at some e-commerce data, where in this column on the rows, sorry, are segments, based upon, did the user make one purchase, 2 to 4, or 5 or more. In other words, I can take my transactional database, capture that in Google Analytics to understand my persona or relationship data, right? I put that on top of my merchandising data, rows 1 and 2 are the holiday season or the spring season, and I can see that my loyal customers were the ones who are driving profit on new items. Okay, so I can already, even in a tool like Google Analytics, have access to merchandising data, customer analytics, which will then be usable as through Google Remarketing, which we'll see momentarily. Okay? Another example of that relationship is in B2B. Anytime your users are filling out values in forms, capture meaningful business values in your analytics so that you can use them for segmentation. Industry, when you anticipate purchasing, right? You put it on the form for some reason, so might as well have it in the ability to do your analysis in your analytics, matching it against your acquisition channels. Right? The other side of that behavioral measurements is what we've been discussing earlier in part 2, right? Again, a specific action on a specific type of page. In this case, we have Machane Kites for sports, okay? So did they download a brochure? You would probably set that as a goal. But if you set that as a goal, you wouldn't know, well, which sport, which camp, which region, because those, you need the hit level data. So here's the same thing that we came up with, that bar chart, viewing the brochure modal and its download rate by, at the bottom, it's hard to see a little bit, by sport. Or I can put that into the scatter plot, where the bottom is the ratio, the rate. So all the way to the left is baseball, right? Very low completion rate. And I know that it's high enough in the scatter plot that there's enough statistical significance of volume, okay? So maybe that's the place I should start with my hypotheses for testing, because this sport had a bad completion rate, Or I can say, hey, I know that lacrosse is doing great. Does anybody even here know what lacrosse is? I don't know. So maybe I can put more money into that paid spend. Now, next step. Taking that data model and how to use it in segmentation analytics to discover intent. So let's say that Ben Dochili, right? So my cousin loves hoodies. And if I want to know if he was interacting with hoodies on my website, I need to create the following type of segment. It's a sequential segment where all of the elements are in the same step. So this is a product added to cart on the hoodies page, right? Or it was a swimwear added to wish list. I had the action, its context, so the metric and its dimension together in the same hit, and now I have understanding of the user's intent. They were interested in swimwear, okay? That's only possible if you're using sequence-based segments. Anybody here do A/B testing? Right? So if you're doing an A/B test and one of your variations is control, right? If you're not using a segment like this in the same step, any other test that's also called control will overlap. This is a way to absolutely have pure hit level segmentation. Okay? Let's see it in action. Remember this? Hey, I want to download this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, I click on that. What happens? I get to this page. Paywall, right? So what the user didn't know at this time is when they click that button, that was actually not a free download, right? Some on this particular site, that button click would have been free if the user was a logged in paying user. That's the difference. Oh, you're not logged in? You want to get this? You can pay. You are logged in, you download. Well, how do I see that difference in my analytics? The same type of segment in a single sequence. It was a paid product, meaning it's not going to be a free download. I click that button, and I am not, right, an annual or monthly subscriber to the website. So now I'm looking at the actions of my prospects in relationship to a particular page. Context, actions taken, and their relationship. Okay? So now this segment is people who clicked and tried to download the slide, but they were not going to be successful. I can use this to measure my prospect conversion rate on a page level, roadmap slides, puzzle slides, strategy, medical, right? Doctors looking for PowerPoint slides are a different type of intent than business people looking for PowerPoint slides, and I might remarket to them differently, okay? Which brings me to step 5, right? Remarketing. Now, I'm going to lay the concepts that I've shared so far about discovering user intent and being able to measure behavior within its context on top of an idea that's not mine, which is the Google guy. His name is Mike Rhodes, okay? And his idea is like this. Most remarketing that we see out there is, hey, you came to my site? Great, I'll continue showing you my ads. Everybody's in the same bucket for 30 days. He says, what do we really care about? We really care about people who are interested, okay? If you're converted or a buyer, no, I don't need to remarket to you. If you're somehow not interested, I don't really need to remarket to you either. I need to put my money and my bid management into the interested. So how do we know who's interested? Remember all those things I was telling you about, right? Don't forget, like, an important piece. The only way to really, really, really know who is interested is by asking them. Qualitative data is the only way in our industry to actually know why. Answer the why. However, we can still make inferences about visitor intent based upon their actions. So I don't really know why the user's doing something, but if I look at somebody, let's say, you know, I'm standing in line and somebody's trying to push to the front, maybe I think they're running late somewhere, or they're just a jerk, right? One or the other. But maybe I could infer that they're running late, which is why they're trying to push, okay? So how do we infer that intent? Those types of actions I was talking about that we want to use, metrics to measure, add to carts, add to wish lists, viewing videos, filling forms, comparing items, chatting with you, anything that would be your micro conversion, okay? So, hey, We take that and split it into time cohorts. Okay, so this is days at the bottom, 0 to 3 days, half a week, 1 week, and the rest of the month. Okay? With remarketing lists, you can create audiences where everybody fits into that list, and then create all visitors for who are in the list duration is 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. Okay? And now you put them on as a negative list. So if I want to show a certain group in the time cohort, the 0 to 3 days, I'm going to put a negative of for the 18 and the 30 on the other ones, and then it'll just show to that. Now if I want to show for the 1 week only, I apply the all visitors from 8 to 14 days and from 15 to 30 days as negatives on that same list. Okay? So the interest list is just a group of people who took the action that indicates interest. And then I can fight banner fatigue with that. And the aspect of targeting is not just anybody took any action, but action within its context, because you have the data now in your analytics to know, oh, medical slide interest, as opposed to some other, I was interested in a car that used a lot of gas and cost a lot of money, as opposed to a small car that was inexpensive, right? Okay, so to recap, we want you to please plan your data collection, right? Because segmentation will open the door to your capabilities of using the tool, right? There's two types of segmentation. There is visitor or persona, the relationship, or there's the unit of work, the behavioral intent, okay? And those interactions, in order to get the most out of Google Analytics, should be measured with custom metrics. When you're using data visualization tools to present to others or to actually do some level of analysis, you can use Data Studio, clean up your data, okay? Make nice visualizations for it. Then we're going to take that framework to retarget the interested users that we know within their context with time decay bid modifiers, fighting banner fatigue, okay? And please, I implore you, for my sake, for the sake of Jim Stern, for Ron's sake, please, people, segment, right? Use that segmentation in the same sequential step in order to discover your user intent. So thank you very much.